Well, hello and welcome to this event. My name is Andrei Kostousov. I am with the Office of Global um, Initiatives here at the University of Rhode Island. This is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to this event, which we call Accelerating Your Career with Masters of Science in Management at the University of Rhode Island, and then Demystifying GRE. So joining me today are my colleague, Dr. Donna Gamache-Griffiths, who is the Executive Director of Education at the College of Business of URI, and also Jay Bryant, Associate Director of Educational Partnerships at the Educational Testing Service, which is the maker and administrator of the GRE exam. There are different ways for us to qualify the quality of your education reputation, brand name, campus life, others. But I think among all of those, there's one that stands out, and specifically how your skills, competencies, and experiences that you receive, you gain during your education, prepare you for your professional and personal growth. Which program can accelerate your career and help you make this next step? And today we'll talk about one of such programs, Masters uh, of Science in Management, that is offered here at the University of Rhode Island. And later today, we'll talk about what constitutes the graduate record examination, a very important exam that some of you will have to take in order for you to gain admission to an advanced degree program in the United States, but also globally. So at this point, without further ado, I'd like to pass the microphone to my colleague, Dr. Donna Gamache-Griffiths, who will tell you a little bit more about our program in management.
Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are, early morning here on the East Coast. Thank you so much for joining us. Around the globe, there are many great programs that can help you advance your career and make you be a leader in your industry. But those programs need to be carefully aligned with the needs of the marketplace. We want to make sure, and you should make sure, that whatever you're doing has longevity. When we look at the statistics provided by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, right, one of our government agencies, it shows that global fintech is the area with the most growth going forward. Over $460 billion in this field in 2026 and over $1.7 trillion by 2034. It's taking up 62% of the global marketplace, and the job growth in this great big industry is at 11 to 12% annually through 2031. This is job security, it's opportunities for advancement, and it's a lot of interesting cutting-edge ways to use your degree. Overall, employment in advertising, promotions, and marketing is set to grow by 6% annually through 2034. And the need in all of these areas for strategic leadership is also going to grow by almost 10% through 2033. Looking at the global financial situation and employment situation, we see that new employment in business and financial occupations is going to outpace the average for all of them. So it's an industry that has a lot of growth potential, and it's an industry that also has a lot of security. So it's something that universities feel very strongly to prepare their students for the future. And my good colleague Andre is going to forward the screens for me because for some reason I cannot this morning. So when we look at this global dynamic, right, we need to know how can you maximize this potential for yourself? What's there for you? And the way we believe to capitalize on this great opportunity is through a master's degree. Statistics show that a salary increase over a bachelor's degree is about 60% when you have a master's. Translated into US dollars, that's $30,000 to $50,000 higher starting salary right out of the gate, right when you begin. Um, and the greatest increases come for students who have degrees coupled with work experience or specialized knowledge. That specialized knowledge can be in finance or marketing or things like sports management, right? Very important in developing fields. So, business, financial, and sales occupations offer some of the highest wage premiums for workers that have a master's degree, meaning how much more you're earning than your peers. Lastly, master's is the new bachelor's, right? In 2024, 91% of corporate recruiters hired master's graduates. You really need the degree to set yourself apart and to make sure that you can take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. Having the right skill set and the right education can make all of the difference at the start of your career to compound that success for the future. So there's lots of programs out there at lots of schools. This is a list of some of them we have at URI, and these are ways, other schools have them too, that you can make yourself more competitive and more eligible for the opportunities that exist. There's things that are easily achieved, like graduate certificates, and then many other types of specialized masters, textile, fashion, merchandising, design, healthcare, supply chain. MS Management, which is a STEM degree that we're going to be talking about today, MS Accounting, the many permutations of an MBA, flexible 1 year, Blue combined with oceanography, combined with pharmacy, or combined with engineering. A DBA, a Doctor of Business Administration, created specifically for working practitioners, and then the PhD for those with a greater interest in academics and perhaps wanting to follow the professor route. No matter what business school you're going to, it's very important that you look for AACSB accreditation, the Association for the Advancement of Collegiate Schools of Business. These are about the top 13% of business schools globally, and it's very hard to achieve that designation. And those schools are very prestigious in terms of their research, their faculty qualifications, their support of students, and their ability to continue providing long-term opportunities for their graduates. So AACSB accreditation, very important. Look for that ranking when you're looking for business schools. The one degree I wanted to mention the most is the Master of Science in Management. Looking at the trends in employment and global finance, URI decided that we needed to meet those needs head on in a more structured and more formalized way, in addition to our MBA program. So the Master of Sciences Management is created for those with STEM backgrounds in mind, but it's open to everyone, and it's meeting those industry needs and demands. There is a 30 credit core that focuses on strategic leadership, but you can also pursue specializations in fintech, financial technologies, sports management, or marketing. And this is a very flexible program, evenings, weekends, fully online with certain qualifications, and full-time or part-time, meant to meet the needs of a variety of students who are looking to start their career at a higher level or advance the careers they're already in, or maybe even pivot into something new with an additional degree and greater experience. Some of the classes that you would be taking as part of the core, mathematical models for management, critical business skills. Um, oop, Andre, if you can go back for a moment. And one more. One thing that's very unique about our program is that we have an international business management class, or you can participate in a global immersion, which is a faculty-led study abroad program. It is a short-term program, typically 2 weeks in the summer or at the end of the spring semester. And this year, students will be going to Morocco to learn about business and global business practices there. So it's a great opportunity to travel with your faculty and your classmates and get to see a different part of the world and see business in action. You don't have to do that. You can take the class, but it is an option. Finance, marketing decisions, leadership, operations and project management, which is supply chain, law and ethics, and business integration 1 and 2, taking the theories and the knowledge and the current real world scenarios and applying them to case studies, to sometimes actual Rhode Island business problems, right? Hands on, both experiential learning and theory based. So, to give you a broad range of tools, a great network of classmates and professors, and the opportunity to see the world. Um, Albeit in a small way, while you pursue your degree. It is a very new program. It's our second year with it, and it's really proving to be quite popular.
Mhm. Well, at this point, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in and
Yeah.
say that this event is not designed to be a lecture, but rather a conversation. So I would invite our guests to ask their questions as we go along. You can unmute yourself and ask your question live, or put a question in the chat box, and then we'll try to answer as many of them as we can. So as we go along and questions come to mind, please don't hesitate to ask.
So you may have heard of Glassdoor. It's a global company for recruiting and also for information gathering on the employment world and current industry trends. So Glassdoor has some information regarding the most important or the most up and coming jobs and salaries in different areas. So one area that we're discussing that has great application is fintech. And these are some of the current roles in fintech and current average annual salaries for these roles. You can see that there are different quantitative analysts, product manager, a systems manager, software engineers, data science, blockchain developer, compliance officer, and a banking operations manager, right? Different areas, different roles within the world of fintech, but each of them needing that specialized knowledge in leadership, in management, and finance. Marketing is more your interest, right? Marketing careers and salaries are also very high. A chief marketing officer, a little over 200,000. Vice president of marketing, user experience director. Everything we interface with, right, and has a user experience. So that's a growing role. Public relations, marketing, creativity, information, media, all of these areas also need that specialized knowledge. And starting, at this amount, with your knowledge, with your theoretical and practical experience, right, it only grows from there. Finally, sports management, as we're all thinking about FIFA coming up, lots of careers in this field, again, related to marketing, to athletic directors, sports agents, sales managers, general managers, sports facility managers, services, accountants. All of these, again, and there are many, many more. These are just some of the more well-known ones, are opportunities that present themselves to you when you have pursued the proper degree in your specialization.
Donna, maybe before we jump into talking about University of Rhode Island in particular, maybe we can go back to some of the points that you mentioned in your presentation earlier, and maybe you can highlight certain areas and disciplines of what exactly constitutes the core study in the program. You mentioned quite a few of them. Let me, yeah. So. So,
Right there. Yeah.
exactly. So for our guests, just to have a better understanding as to what kind of skills and competencies and knowledge they can gain from these studies.
So mathematical models for management, everything is data driven right now. We have the numbers, means of accumulating data in large amounts. So you need to know how to parse that data, package that data, and utilize it to make strategic and informed decisions going forward. And also, how do you explain it to someone else? Where did you gather it? How did you sort it? What are you going to use it for? And then ultimately, how do you measure what you've done with this information? Critical business skills runs the gamut from effective verbal and written communication to understanding which tools you need to use in your business, right? What programming, what opportunities, what virtual platform should you use? It's everything. I briefly mentioned international business management or the global immersion. Nothing exists in one country anymore. We are a much smaller planet in that way, and that we are all connected, and we need to understand how that works. Financial fundamentals, it's a basis for which all business is done, right? Finance and accounting are the language of business, and this helps you understand that. Marketing decision making also looks at the many myriad ways in which we uh, share our product, our services, our ability with the world, not just externally, but also internally. How do we make our own employees knowledgeable about what we have? Leadership, pretty self-evident there. Operations and project management, everything is a project. Everything can be made more efficient, whether it's hiring, whether it's shipping and logistics, whether it's the process for getting work done. Law and ethics. Um, I teach in law, so this is very close to my heart. Um, whatever you do, you have to do it legally. You have to understand how the law impacts your business and ethical businesses, right? You do well when you do good. And looking at that and looking perhaps at businesses that fell short of the mark. And lastly, the two business integration classes. We like to say that this is where a theory becomes reality in applying your knowledge. So it's very tangential, hands-on, project-based, case-based type work that lets you see how what you're learning plays out in real life. So each of these is distinct, but you will see how they connect wonderfully to one another. And um, separately, they're powerful. As a whole, they make you unstoppable because you can see where all these pieces work together in modern business today.
Mhm. Well, you mentioned that there will be opportunities for our students to practice their skill. You mentioned our partnerships and relationships with businesses in Rhode Island, and not only. Can you speak about that a little bit?
So each of these classes you will have, whether you're in person or online, you will have work that needs to be done individually and in a group. And a lot of time, the group project, you will end up facilitating an actual project that has been brought to our College of Business for assistance. So I can think of one, a local hospital needed to have a more efficient means of dealing with, the triage in the emergency room. They can tell you what medical situation needs to be dealt with first, but how do they make sure that the flow of people in and out? How do they make sure the paperwork? How do they set up even their workstations? How do they make this known to the folks coming in, right? Multiple parts that has to do with the funding that they have, their financial constraints, the laws that apply to this information and privacy and so forth. And the students actually developed a more effective way for people to be treated in the emergency room, right? It had a whole healthcare component, but that was secondary to the knowledge that these classes provided them. And they came up with a measurement tool, and uh, just about 7 months later, when they measured what they were doing, they had cut wait times in the emergency room by 30%, which we think, oh, that's not that much. But when you're waiting for someone and you're worried or you're sick, 30% is a huge amount of time. And that hospital is actually up for a healthcare quality award in New England because of this work, right? And they've told the students that they would like them to come back and be there when they get the award because it really it was the collaborative effort that helped to make it happen. So that's just one small example
Hmm.
about how that works.
Hmm.
You're already changing lives and already making a difference.
Donna, there's a question that came from the chat, and it goes, if you don't have much experience with finance, would that still be okay for fintech, or is it better to take some further finance classes before applying?
If you haven't taken like statistics and quantitative analysis courses and things like that beforehand, that's not a problem. You will be given an opportunity to take some foundational classes. I believe there's three before you begin to make sure that you have the necessary baseline knowledge to move ahead. But it's not a prerequisite. We have many students who pivot from whatever they were doing before to come into this area. Um, Math at the end of the day, the department chair in finance likes to say it's not necessarily hard, it's just tedious. So the willingness to work um, in the math is I think all you need. You don't need to come in here being I know all about how to code, blockchain for smart contracts. No, that's not what we're envisioning. We're not making you a computer programmer. We're not making you an accountant. We're not doing those things, but we're giving you the tools to work in that space. That's more important. Also, our class sizes are small. And you have lots of opportunities to interact directly with your professors or with TAs. Um, Grad programs don't really have TAs, but with the other students who are in the class as well. So
Hmm.
it shouldn't be an impediment to moving forward in that area.
Well, you mentioned a tremendous growth that fintech has been experiencing around the world and projected to grow even further in the future. Another question that just came in is there any overlap between management information system and fintech specialization in your program?
Management information systems has kind of evolved into supply chain management in many places, and it's sort of split apart. So we have supply chain management, and we also have business analytics and intelligent, and there is overlap in them, but they are still distinct and separate just because of how they are used so much in practice. So MIS is not a degree that we have here, but much of what you're learning in terms of analysis and deployment of the data has similar components.
Mhm. And even taking a look at some of the roles that your graduates may take within industry, I think there's a significant difference, like compliance officer, for example, that we just see on the screen, and the
Yeah,
blockchain
compliance
people.
officer, a product manager and a compliance officer or a banking operations manager, right? They're different than a quantitative analyst or a software engineer,
Mhm.
definitely.
Mhm.
So there's lots of room within that space for more quantitative work as well as more qualitative work. You just need to understand where it's all coming from.
Mhm. Mhm. And it's a pretty broad application, right? So just thinking about fintech, even though it's just one name, but just the application of it, judging by the roles that they students or our graduates can play, is really broad.
Yeah, fintech, when you think about it, it can constitute things like AI in its broadest term, right? Blockchain in all the way it's used, whether it be for smart contracts or cryptocurrency, cloud computing, big data. all of that is encompassed in the fintech world. Even things like, how you pay on your mobile phone, uh, you know, Apple Pay, right? You just hit your phone and it works. All of that is part of the fintech
Mhm,
realm.
mhm. Well, wonderful. I hope that there will be more questions coming in from our audience. In the meantime, let us talk a little bit about the University of Rhode Island in particular. So we stopped right about here.
So I had mentioned before why AACSB is so important. And URI has been AACSB accredited our entire program since 1972. They also have a specialized accreditation for accounting, and we also hold that. So, as I mentioned, we have to have funds available to sustain our programs. We have to have advanced scholarship and research and credentialing for our faculty. And we have to ensure that our curriculum applies to the markets and the economies, that we are not stagnant. We are keeping up with the times. We are teaching the foundations and the fundamentals, but also utilizing them in a way that meets current market demands. In the College of Business at the University of Rhode Island, we have over 75 full-time faculty. We represent, amongst ourselves, 15 countries, speaking 37 different languages. Small class sizes, graduate class sizes are typically 20 or less. Um, you have access to business advisors, career counselors, our alumni, and other corporate partners. And we do a lot of events, live and virtual, for students to network and connect. And we have those additional opportunities for co-curricular and experiential learning, the global immersion, the real world projects, and all the uh, tools and choices that the University of Rhode Island, a large R1, well-ranked research institution, can provide. And so there we are. We are the number one public university in New England, which is a part of the United States. And this says we are the 35th, but actually we've just been re-ranked. We are the 34th number public university in the nation. And public universities are the majority of universities in the country. So we're ranked quite high. And when you think of New England, and the states in New England, and all of the schools that we have here we are, this is our little section of the US. That's also quite an accomplishment. Um, right, we're in the northeast corner, um,
Yeah.
and it's a great place to live and work, and a wonderful community to be a part of.
Well, it's my question to the audience. Is there anything that you would like to know more about? I believe there's a slide maybe later in the presentation. We're going to pull it up after Jay's section. There was a question with very specific uh, specific question about priority dates, application fees, and all these nitty-gritty as to how to apply into the program. But as I said, we're going to come to that part of the presentation a little bit later today and definitely answer that. And again, please don't hesitate to ask your question. This is an opportunity for you to learn more, and the more you know, the better you are prepared to make decision. A great question just came in. What is the public transportation like in Rhode Island? Well, I'm a recent transplant to Rhode Island. I used to work in the city of Boston that has, like a major city in the United States, a very robust transportation system. Here in Rhode Island is not as something that you should adjust to. There is a public transportation for the state of Rhode Island. Just to give you an idea, the entire state of Rhode Island is the size of Luxembourg. If you traveled across Europe and you familiar with geography, that's the size of the state. And if you come from other parts of the world, Cape Verde in Africa approximately the same size as Rhode Island. So it's very, very small. But we do have a transportation system that would take our students to Providence, which is the capital of the state, the center of all the entertainment, fun things to do, bars. And there's a Newport. There's another city that is very known around the world because this is where the first U.S. Open tennis tournament took place, and the International Tennis Hall of Fame is located in Newport. Newport used to be the playground of rich and powerful back in the Industrial Revolution, turn of the 20th century days, where many tycoons from around the United States built their mansions and spent their summers in Newport. So there is this sort of the glamour of the Gilded Age that is very prevalent in Newport. And you can, from the campus, you can take the bus and get to Newport, to Providence, or to the beach. We are just 10 minutes away from the beach. In fact, one of our campuses is on the beach. This is where the School of Oceanography is located. So it does exist. Students do take it. This is something that we feel is very important for our students. In addition to that, there's an option of on-demand transportation. So you can place a request with RIPTA, which is the Rhode Island transportation system, and they will come and pick you up. And then obviously the University of Rhode Island provides some transportation inside the campus and outside the campus for students to go shopping and things like that. So that would be my answer. Donna, you spent way more time at URI than I did. Anything else to add?
We're located right next to a major train depot, right? And the train can take you to Providence, to Boston, to New York.
And to New York.
Very fast and efficient. We also have an airport in Rhode Island, a pretty big hub, but we're not far away from Boston's airport or New York's airport. Again, both, you can take the train or the bus to both places directly. Rhode Island is small, probably 40 miles north to south, the entire state. And everything you need is really, you can get what you need very close to campus. It's a safe rural campus, but we are really close to major cities, and it's a nice combination of the two. And my students typically don't have difficulty moving around, right? We don't have the underground, or we don't have the tube, but we have a pretty extensive bus network and train network, and yeah. So, and we're far enough away for it to be relaxing and close enough for it to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Another question just came in. How would you compare the cost of living in the state of Rhode Island compared to other states?
I'd say it's much less expensive than any of the major metropolitan areas in the United States. It's more expensive than if you were, perhaps in the middle of the country, which is typically less expensive. When you're on the coast or near the water, naturally the price is higher. It's location. But Rhode Island overall is less expensive than our neighbors of Connecticut and Massachusetts.
Oh yeah,
and
that's very
definitely
true. Very true.
much less expensive than New York. Or DC or Los Angeles or Chicago or any of the major cities. So we're also ranked, that we didn't put the numbers up, but we're also ranked by U.S. News and World Reports and the Wall Street Journal as a top value school in the United States, meaning that you're getting a lot of great things for less money than you would in other places.
Well, surely you will have some additional questions about the program, about the University of Rhode Island, about living here in the state, which for me, being the transplant from Massachusetts, I just love it here. But that's very personal. I'm biased a little bit. So what you see in front of you on the screen, those are the QR codes that could take you directly to the College of Business here at URI and the MS Management program specifically. Again, this is a conversation. We invite your questions all throughout the presentation. But at this point, I'd like to pass the microphone on to Jay Bryant from the ETS to tell you a little bit more about GRE, such an important exam. So let me stop sharing, and then Jay, you can jump in and
All right. Very good. Let me go ahead and get my stuff shared here. Let's see if you will confirm that you see my screen now.
yes, we can.
All right, perfect. All right, let me get myself organized here. Hi, everyone. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the GRE, one of the things that you will likely be looking at as you go through the admissions process. There is a lot of information here, and I could speak all day. So I'm going to really go through this and hit the highlights for you in about the next 15 minutes or so. Feel free to ask questions. I would ask Andre if you watch those for me because I'm not really watching the question box. I have it over here,
Hmm.
but I don't.
Absolutely, I will.
All right, perfect. All right, so let me move forward here. A little bit about me, just so you know why I am here. Notice that I do work with universities kind of all over the US and the world. But I am located in Texas. I did my undergrad here in the University of Texas, and then I did get my MBA at Thunderbird School of Global Management, which is part of Arizona State, clear other side of the United States from Rhode Island. But I did spend more than 15 years of my career leading admissions and recruitment efforts in different business schools, Thunderbird, where I attended being one of them, as well as University of California in San Diego. So I have been working with admissions for business schools for quite a long time, and glad that I could be here today representing ETS to talk about the GRE General Test. All right, so oops, I didn't mean to go forward yet. The GRE does work for a variety of programs. If you're thinking of different types of programs that you might want to do, not just MBAs or Master of Science in Business, but excuse me, engineering, um, all your science type programs, all of those, as well as liberal arts programs and others as well. JD programs are now starting to take the GRE as well. So it's quite ubiquitous amongst admissions offices or requirements. In case you are wondering, business schools have been accepting it since for quite a while now. That trend really started about 2010, so I guess 16 years back when I started seeing that happen. So quite common to see GRE accepted as an option along with the GMAT, which is the other option we typically see. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences in the two tests as we go through here, because ultimately you will want to decide which one is going to be best for you. We do have more than 1,000 testing centers in more than 160 countries, so you are never too far away from a place to take the test, and it is delivered uh, all the every day of the year minus a few big holidays. But unlike some tests where it's a very specific date and time, it is available basically any day of the year. A few years ago when we hit the COVID time and test centers had to close, we did start offering and still do the GRE at home test. There are some special security things that go on through that. I'm not going to get in deep with that, but do know that you would be taking that at home. You're going to be monitored by just like you're watching me. There's going to be a proctor watching you while you take that to make sure that you have no unfair advantages while taking the GRE over anyone else. If you qualify for modifications, you probably know who you are and do know that those are available, and information about that is available on our website. So simply Google GRE and you'll be able to find that information. All right, real quickly going into the test format, there are 3 sections. It is a total of 1 hour and 58 minutes. That is was shortened a couple of years ago. It used to be an almost 4-hour test. So We have shortened that to get right to the point and test what needs to be tested through the GRE. There's a writing section, 30 minutes, verbal section 41, and quantitative reasoning 47 minutes. Note the verbal and quantitative do both have the same amount of questions right here at 27, but of course we give a little more time on the quantitative reasoning since you are solving math problems. As far as scoring, the analytical writing section is scored on a 0 to 6, with 6 being the high score, and you can get 0.5 increments. So you are aiming for that 6. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we're looking for there. Verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning both have this 130 to 170 score range. I'm going to talk a little bit about how you get to those scores, but know that 170 is the you got everything right. 130 would be you got everything wrong. And 150 is you got somewhere in the right there in the very middle. Do note that we do have 3 separate scores for 3 separate sections. Different schools may post it differently on their website. That is up to them. You will sometimes see, sorry, I've got lines all over here now, but this 130, 170, let's say you scored a 150 on both. Sometimes you'll see schools say we have an average of around a 300 number. That's where they're getting it. They're simply adding that together. You will not see that from the GRE itself. We do keep those scores separate. So that is up to the school if they want to report it that way. Excuse me, let's talk about the type of tests: non-adaptive tests, question level adaptive tests, and section level adaptive tests. Basically, non-adaptive tests are what you're most used to, paper and pencil tests. And then adaptive tests means that the test actually is changing as you're taking it. It will get harder or easier depending how you perform, typically. And let me show you a graphic of each of those. Here's a non-adaptive test. Some of you may be familiar with the MCAT, the LSAT, any of those paper-based tests that you take in a classroom. Those are going to be awfully hard to change the questions when they are on paper, but that goes straight through like that. And then depending how you score, you get high test scores and low test scores. Question level adaptive. If you are looking at the GMAT, it is question level adaptive, which means after each question, the following question will either get harder or easier, depending on if you got the question right or not. So what do I mean by that? I put a few examples here. Let's see, I've got 2 paths here. The red path, they got question number 1 right. Question number 2 got a little harder. Then they got that one wrong. So question 3 went down a little bit. And then they got more right here. And ultimately, where you land, that's more or less how your score is going to be determined. So you are going up and down in difficulty here. You can see on this peach colored path that they got the first 2 right. And then they got these next ones wrong this way. So they did score a lower score over here. That's the GMAT. Let me show you the GRE. Ooh, that looks complicated. I promise it's not. There are 27 questions in both the verbal and the quantitative section. So in the first part, you're going to get 12 questions. Over here, you're going to get 15 questions. What happens is in this first section, you're going to answer these 12 questions. And depending how many of them you get right, you'll go into the second section over here. I have here visually 3 different boxes that you could go into. There's more than that. This is not specifically 3 boxes, just for a visual. But if you get them all right, you're going to go up here in this superstar box, I guess we could call it. Or if you get all of them wrong or most of them wrong, you're going to go down here to the less challenging content box. So you want to get the harder questions, because once you get those, if you also get all of those correct, that is how you score a 170. Let's say you got all of them wrong down here and then all of them wrong again. Ooh, not good. Don't want that to happen, but that's how you get the score of a 130. most everyone winds up somewhere in the middle. You may wind up, let's say you go in this top box and get about half of them right. You're scoring in here. That might be like somewhere around a 160, 162, something like that, depending how you do. But do note that the second box of questions is based on how you do in that first box of questions. So here's what the big difference is with the GMAT. I'm going to go back here. The GMAT is going to determine question number 3 based on how you do on question number 2, which means if you get to question number 2, you have to answer it right to move up to the harder questions. And you want those harder questions to be on that trajectory up. But here's the thing. Here, this is a true life example. This happened to me on a test like this a number of years back. And it was involving some geometry sort of question. It had to do with the area of a triangle. Let's say it was on question number 3. I could not remember the formula for the area of a triangle. You may know that right off the top of your head, but it was not coming to me at that moment. And if on the GMAT, I would have to answer the question right then and right there because it is determining the next question. On the GRE, however, I've got these 2 boxes of questions. So what happened to me on my test, I went forward a little bit, wrote down on my scratch paper, go back to question 3. And then I got something later and it hit me how to do the area of a triangle, which is basically height versus width half. It's like doing a square and then halving it to do the triangle. Not that you need to know that. I'm not a geometry teacher, but the point is I remembered it later in the test and was able to go back and answer question number 3. In the GMAT, you don't get that option. In the GRE, as long as you're in this section 1, you're going to have all your questions. You can bounce around as much as you want. Or section 2, same thing. You can bounce around as much as you want or need until you get the answers. Okay. To me, that's a little less test anxiety. You don't have to answer the exact question that you're looking at exactly right now. It looks challenging. I don't remember this. Let me go on and stop stressing myself out over one particular question. All right, real quick, going to go through the different sections here. I'm going to put up some example questions, but I'm going to be flying through this just for time's sake. It's analytical writing. You are going to have 30 minutes to write an essay. My biggest piece of advice for you is to make a mini outline. I remember being back in high school and before, and my teachers really pushing to make an outline, make an outline. You only need to take 30 seconds to a minute to do this. Just write, okay, this paragraph's going to be about this, that's going to be about that, whatever, and these are the points I want to make. As I go through. This will help you so much. You are being graded on organization and not just your language abilities and vocabulary, things like that, but organization and coming in and writing this in a well-structured way is part of your overall score. So you do want to make sure that you don't write train of thought. That can be a bit messy. One other thing I'm going to share with you here, all essay prompts for the GRE exist on our webpage. You can go look them up right now and see that I'm telling you the truth on that. That's something a lot of people don't know, but if you go look, they're all there. There's well over 100. So good luck memorizing your answer for all of those. But we do that so that you get a good feeling of what you're going to be writing about. You can read every single prompt, think through it, maybe make some outlines as you prepare, just so you can walk in that testing environment and you already know what some of the possibilities are for your essays. All right, going on to verbal reasoning. There's 27 questions. You get 41 minutes. These are the question types here. There's reading comprehension. There's 3 different types of ways we ask that. Text completion and sentence equivalence. If you think there's other type questions, there were many years ago, but those are no longer there. This is what is on the GRE today. And let's look at some of those. This is real quick. This is what we call multiple choice select one answer. This is an actual screenshot from the GRE. Notice always down here on this bottom on the right-hand side, we are telling you exactly what you need to do. In this, you would read through the paragraph and it says select one answer choice. I'm not going to go through this with you, but here is the answer choice right there. This is another type, select one or more answer choices. To get this question right, you have to mark all of the correct answers. It could be 1, 2, or 3 in this case. It happens to be that these 2 answers are the ones that you would need to mark correctly. Okay. The next one, select a sentence in the passage, is telling you here they want you to find something inside the passage that answers the question, and you will actually use your mouse and highlight the section where that is the case. Okay, then we have the text completion questions. You do have to get all 3 of these correct. Do know this is testing your vocabulary here. Read the sentence. Do know that it may be that more than one of these words fits in the blank, and you're going to figure out which word is the best word based on context of the whole paragraph or whole selection there. So do know that that you want to make sure, even after you've selected your word, go back and make sure it makes sense in the full picture here. And that's how we mark those. And then this one, it's these are interesting sentence equivalents. It's always going to be 2 answer choices. What you're doing in these, select the 2 words that more or less have the same meaning in a sentence. All of these words do work in the sentence, but 2 of them basically mean the same thing. In this case, universal and ubiquitous would be the selections I would take that mean more or less the same thing. All right, that's quick on the verbal. Let's go to the quantitative real quick. Right here, notice beautiful calculator. You do have that on the screen. You do not get that if you're taking the GMAT. They, I think, have it in one section, but not in the quantitative section. They expect you to do your math by hand. We do not. We are going to be testing arithmetic, algebra, geometry, data analysis. I did not say calculus. I did not say trigonometry. Don't worry about those. This is what you need to look at. Question types, actually very similar to the verbal here. Jumping through this type, select one answer choice. You've got yourself a word problem and got to choose one answer. The next type, same thing, where there could be more than one answer. We're telling you here. In this case, what following integers or multiples of both 2 and 3? Well, there's 3 correct answers on this one. So to get the question right, you are going to have to answer all 3. This is kind of the question I think is the most unique. I haven't seen these many other places in my experience. So you do want to take some time. If you don't study much, at least do a few of these. In these type questions, you'll recognize them because they will always, always, always have these 4 answers and these 4 answers only. Okay, let me show you an example here. This is a geometry question. Quantity A is greater, quantity A being PS, quantity B is greater, which is SR. So right here. So from the information they've given us here, is quantity A greater? Is quantity B greater? The 2 quantities are equal, or we can't determine from what we've been given. Looking at this, it looks like the 2 are equal, but if you know all your geometry principles, you should know you're going to need a little more information here. These questions could be algebra, they could be word problems of all sorts. So do know that you want to practice some of these, and they can be tricky. You may think you can get to an answer, but the right answer is that we don't give you enough information. So be ready for that. And I know we're right here towards the end. There are problems here where you can you're going to use fill in the blank. Do you notice, like in this one, it says go to the nearest whole percent? And that even though the calculator gave me 0.333, the answer does need to be rounded like that. All right. And then there are data interpretation questions. You're given a chart or a graph. Here we go here. And then they've asked you over here to use this information. In this case, know that it could be multiple steps. Um, excuse me, it's kind of a tricky question here because it does say it went up 10% and then down 10% if you walk through this question. And it's not as easy as going up and down. You've got to do the math on it to see that it's where it actually lands. All right. Let's see here. And real quick, you will get your scores at the end of the test. You can cancel right then, but you won't see your scores. We don't recommend that. There's different ways you can send your scores. You can send them right then and there. You can do it at a later time. There's different ways that can be done. You can send all your scores, only some of your scores, if you take it more than once. A lot of people do take the GRE more than once. I hope you don't have to study beforehand, so you do your best the first time. You can take it up to 5 times in a year, every 21 days if you need to. Okay. And then we do have, I'm racing through this, lots of tools that you can check out that are typically less expensive than some other options you may have. But we do have a discount code. It is on your screen right now. And all those O's are zeros, just FYI, if you want to mark that. But this will be good until April 30th of 2026 for 15% off any of the review material that is offered on our website by ETS. There's some really good stuff out there. So please take a look at that. All right. I know we're right up against our ending time here.
Yeah.
Andre, any questions that?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. There are some questions that came in. And the first question is, my GRE test is scheduled for April 17th. Is there anything else that I could do at this moment to help my exam performance?
Sure. Absolutely. What my biggest piece of advice may sound weird. The night before your test, don't stress yourself out. Relax. You should have taken some practice tests before the night before your test. Kick back, watch some TV, go to bed early, all that sort of stuff, and don't go practice and try and cram the night before. It's not that sort of test where you cram. You know the stuff or you don't. But yeah, just when I was taking my admissions test a number of years ago, just I was doing like 3 days a week, 2 hours at a time and sit at the dining room table and work through math problems. Really just repeating and getting a sense for how the problems work and things like that is going to be your best way to do it. I put up that we have a number of different things here. This is my personal favorite, the GRE Mentor. This actually creates for you your own curricula and keeps track how you're doing. So this is an option. If I were studying for the test, this is what I would use. And again, you can use a code for a discount on that. So just keep at it. You do not all at once, a little bit every day is great.
And Jay, can you share any tips as to how to better prepare for the verbal reasoning section? Is there any trick about learning and memorizing vocabulary? How important is it?
All right, vocabulary. I would say the old tests you were having to do some more like analogies and things like that, which we don't do now. Just practice your vocabulary, read, practice, take practice tests, practice questions, things like that. When you come across a word you don't know in the practice stuff, learn that word. That might be even more helpful because you're using it in context over just using the flashcards. The vocabulary is certainly part of it, but don't spend so much time on that you neglect to practice your reading comprehension skills. The more questions that you can just practice with, you're going to see the way we ask questions. If you're getting the material from ETS itself, these are retired test questions written by the people that actually write the test questions. If you get a third-party thing, know that those aren't actually the people who are writing the questions. They're guesstimating how they're written. So
Mm.
practice.
Yeah, practice. Yep. Yeah, practice makes perfect. That's right. Well, thank you, Jay. That was very informative. I appreciate it. Let's switch gears because there was one question that came in the chat asking about the admission requirement into the master's program in management. And I'd like to put this on the screen so Donna could maybe help us navigate these requirements.
So if you were to go back to the QR codes and click on the one for Masters in Management, it would have all of this information on it.
Okay, it's coming up.
But that's okay. But I'll go back and I can go over that one. I'm just saying, make sure you have this one and it'll all be there, but I can go over it quickly just because this will probably answer some of your other questions that you might have. But insofar as sending it through, there is an application fee that is from the University of Rhode Island that changes. So you'd have to check what it is right now. I don't handle that side of it. You need to submit a personal statement, your college transcripts from all the institutions you've attended, and for international applicants, you need to show the equivalency. You need 2 letters of recommendation, either employers or professors, people who can speak to your abilities. You need a professional resume. And if English is not your native language, you need the language test scores that have to be within the past 2 years. The website does have the minimum score requirements, and the deadline for fall admissions is July 15th. It's November 15th for spring admission. You can start either in the fall or the spring, and those are rolling admissions, so it's best to get it in before then. But if it comes in after and there's still spaces, they would still be assessing late applications for admittance. So that's typically how the process goes. And all of that is centralized through our graduate admissions office. And they are the ones that handle the process, the questions, looking at all of the things when you submit your application. Just sort of question, writing your personal statement, what to avoid. I know on the website there's some things about the personal statement. It's your motivation for doing this. How will what you've done contribute to the program? And then how will the program contribute to what you'll do later in the world? That's sort of what they're looking for. Your whys into what into your reasoning, and then what you plan to do with it, what you bring to the table, and what you'll take away into the broader community. That's really what they're looking for in the personal statement.
Well, wonderful. I'll tell you what. Let me put our contact information on the screen. Surely, it always happens like this. You will have questions a little bit later once we hang up. I would hope that you would reach out to us, me, my colleague, Dr. Donna Gamache-Griffiths, but also I hope that Jay would be also open to answering your questions directly. Let me put this information on the screen. So again, please take a note of our contact information, our email addresses. We welcome your questions. And at this stage, we are just over an hour. Maybe we have just enough time for one question. And Jay, the question is actually addressed to you.
That's something, take my email address. I'm not going to be able to answer something personal
Okay.
like that here.
Okay.
And most likely I'll have to forward you on to our Office of Testing Integrity from what it looks like you're asking about. That's not something I'm typically working with, but I can send you in the right direction.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for this event. I hope it was informative. I hope something that we highlighted today will be helpful down the road for you as you consider your educational options and next steps in your careers. Again, reach out, write to us. This event is going to be, is rather a first of a series. So we will continue doing events like that where we highlight different academic programs, career path, different opportunities that you should explore, in our opinion, as you move forward with your careers. So thank you again, and we hope to see you very soon. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.